soul family, soulmates. So that's why we have, see, modern society and I started opening my eyes and realizing that all of this is happening for a reason. Because a year and a half, because it was June of last year when you did my first reading, and I got a lot to say about that because I did it down and out mentally, physically, financially. I didn't say much, and you literally hit the nail on the head with a lot of things. You told me things that I never told you, and you just knew. So.
Hey everyone, it's Holly Hall from Askhollyhall. This is different than the Intelligent Soul. This is when I'm working with clients that I've had for quite some time. In this case, we've got Chris. He's been a client of mine for about a year and a half, and he's got some exciting things to talk about, his experience with me, but we're also going to do a little bit of a mini reading. He is born in Poland, but made in Poland, but here in Canada. Right now he's on the West Coast. And I'm in Ontario. How did you find me, first of all, a year and a half ago?
I've always been a big political nerd since I was a kid. And obviously, everybody knows with what's going on here in Canada and the rest of the Western world, the interesting politics right now. In the back of my mind, believed in the gift and the power of, of spirituality and psychic abilities. This was something that was used for thousands of years, astrology particular. But astrology is something that I've always been interested in since I was about 12, 13 years old. My mom introduced me to it.
So you found me on TikTok, right?
Yes, I found you on TikTok, and that's what I was. So anyway, so let's see what's going to happen with our fabulous Prime Minister Trudeau, right? And I just typed in Justin Trudeau predictions, astrological predictions. It was something along, I'm paraphrasing, right? And then I found you, and I found your channel.
I think I did Trudeau's chart. That's what I did. I was looking at his chart, his personality.
And and I started clicking on all the celebrities and politicians, and each and every one of your readings was on the ball. I watched pretty much all your videos on TikTok. No, I binged, and I'm just like, something told me in the pit of my stomach, set up a session just for an hour. If it's not accurate, then whatever, right? I didn't tell you much. I was also in a different state of mind. I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of fear. It's like everything in my life was kind of going to shit. Everything was like, I went through a bad breakup.
You went through a bad breakup. You were having some issues with your mom. You were moved out west. You were looking at if your career was going to advance and whatnot.
Precisely. And so I set up a meeting with you over the phone, and I didn't tell you much. And I honestly thought that, I don't know, I was cursed. I was cursed in this life. Why is everything always working out for everybody else, but not working out for me? I was already pushing into my late 30s. I'm like, I was moved out of my home province into a totally different province out west here. And I didn't know anybody. And like, why did my old bosses send me out here? What am I doing here? This is a totally different culture. The people are different. But I stayed. And in the city where I am. And I just kind of fell in love with the place, right? Because
so you felt like you were cursed. How did that first reading resonate with you, and how did it help you in any way? If it did.
Actually, it shocked me because I didn't tell you much, and you started telling me things that I didn't really tell anybody. So it was just like, oh wow, this is the real deal. Right after our reading, level of anxiety started falling slowly, but it started falling, started dropping. I gained this confidence, this hope.
That's a good word.
Everything is going to be okay. Yeah. After our meet, I started really looking into what karma is, why we're here. And that kick-started my journey down spirituality.
So in the reading that I gave you, I did a karmic part of your reading as well, which I do with all my clients right at the beginning, along with your childhood and your personality traits and your gifts and your challenges, which are lessons.
Yes. It kickstarted everything. I kickstarted my journey into where I am right now, a year and a half later. And it's just everything about myself and my mindset and even my physical health, my mental health, my level of confidence. everything just started.
You don't feel cursed anymore?
No, no, not cursed, because I realized that that is not what's happening. I
Right.
realized that
And you
this
were going
is,
down a pretty dark rabbit hole too with the politics and everything. You were getting a
yes,
bit very
yes,
cynical about it and
yes,
scared because you're from the
yes,
old country.
yes,
My mom is from the old country too. We know the history. It's hard. So we have this in our DNA. And so
yep.
you were being triggered by
Being
that.
triggered, and because I've grew up, grandparents, great aunts, and uncles telling me stories about war and communism and everything that's starting to happen here in the Western world. It's a lot. It's very eerily similar to what I've been told by my parents and my grandparents
Mhm.
about Marxism and all that, right? And it's like, well, it looks like we're going down that road, right? And I started panicking. I'm like, oh my God, it's like, why did my whole family leave everything we had to come here just so we can
To the
bring us
same.
this? I'm just like, you know what? Maybe I am cursed. I started opening my eyes and realizing that all of this is happening for a reason, because this world, this lifetime, this dimension, it's all like a video game. It's missions. We're just
Mhm.
doing karmic missions. And this is where the idea for video games came from, and movies.
It opened the year and a half that I've known you, working with you on a regular. You usually book an appointment every 2 or 3 months. Sometimes you do little minis in between,
Yep.
and you're you opened up a portal, and now suddenly this portal that's always been there but was not open. You're starting to become very psychic, somewhat very intuitive. You have a
Yeah.
deeper understanding of what's below the surface of the matrix, which is very freeing, right? It allows you to think that this is not all doom and gloom. That's how I see that you've advanced tremendously. And your relationship with your mom, like holy cow, that's massively
With family
changed.
overall, just family overall. I
Yeah.
mean, just,
With your
yeah, it's just, and
brother
family.
has
Yeah.
changed. You
Yeah.
go on vacation. This guy went to Hawaii with his mom. Who does
I
that?
know. I know,
That's how
and
good that they are now.
well, in their late 30s, you'll go on vacation with their moms,
With their
right? So
mom.
I opened up my eyes and realized how important family or physical family in this world is. And you don't realize how similar you are to them, not just on a biological level. Yes,
Yeah.
the genetics are there. You have certain personality traits.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not even that, but I also realized why certain people come in and out of our lives at certain times. And when you start researching as why all this is happening, it's because those people that just kind of like come in your life, teach you something, and then they just disappear, or they're kind of always around, like that, like Dory from Finding Nemo, like always
Yeah.
pops in, cheers you up when it's the right time, when you're going through something stressful. You get that text or that call from that friend that you rarely talk to, but they always have something great to say, and they uplift you. Realize that we're just like balls of energy of consciousness that choose this life. Like I said, like a video game, you have missions to do. You know what I mean? We're all like a soul family, soulmates. So that's why we have see modern society and in Hollywood totally distorted the word soulmate as like that's your one only other half.
Yeah.
That's when your soul splits and one goes one way and then you kind of find each other. But it's not always a, oh my God, like a love story relationship. It's usually a disastrous relationship where
We've
you
got a
have
lot of
to.
karma and a lot of work to deal with.
So the soulmates are your friends, your family from that hops from life to life to life to life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
And you
might
guys
hook
are
up
all,
with a soulmate, you might not.
once you realize that, you start getting confident and you hire people like yourself to look at your charts.
Right?
Yes.
Every time we would do a reading, we would unpack something different. And then there was predictions involved as well. So certain things did happen, help prepare you to make different choices. And then he went
Yes.
through this manifesting stage, which is at the tail end right now. And he was, if you remember, Chris, you were reminiscing about this old apartment that you really like the neighborhood, you like the apartment, but you don't think you don't see it, there's anything available. And I was like, you're in a manifesting stage. Go find, so tell us what happened there.
Like I said, a rough karmic. Well, I had back karmic relationships, like relationships, and I got out of it. I was down and out mentally, physically. financially. So I was living in this tiny place, to kind of get myself on my back on my feet. And I kept driving by my old complex where I got into that relationship. And I was just like, you know what? Even a year before, when my father was here visiting, we drove by here and he's just like, oh, this is where he used to live. And my father doesn't show a lot of emotion. Like, he's a Taurus, Western Taurus, right? He's very cut and dry and got, but he just showed some emotion to that. And it opened my eyes when he says, oh, it was such a nice place, right? And I kept remembering that. It was looping in my head. And it was his last year.
I remember when we did a reading around it, though, too.
May of this year.
We did a reading around it.
Yes. And that's the reason I asked you about it. I think I did a mini reading about it, or it was a full reading.
But you're in the magic wand phase, which means you can manifest. It's manifesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I just popped in here and I talked to the property management, and they told me, yeah, there's 2 units available in August. And then I started thinking about it. And that's when I did a reading with you. And you told me, go for it. Yeah. And I did. And I absolutely did. And you told me you're going to get it. And it happened. And then at the same time, it was time to trade my car in, right? Because the lease was up. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finance the same car, but I know the newer, brand new 24, right? So, and then you told me the same thing. You're like, you're going to get the car. I always thought I was cursed, right? So it's like everything was working out for everybody else. But with me, it was always an uphill battle with everything, right? But I took your advice, and something deep down inside told where there was like the struggle inside my chest, inside my soul, where it's just like, negative Nancy in you saying, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Just telling you in your head. But my positive Nancy was saying, F you, you know what I mean? It's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. And it did work. It really did work. And you were on the ball, even down to the dates, down to the description. You even described my neighborhood. You said there's trees here. It's there. It's that. And it's true. It's true.
More like a neighborhood, like nature and everything, rather than just a building sticking out of concrete somewhere.
Because it's right on the edge of the uptown. It's kind of like literally in suburbs somewhat, but it's within the city, right? You got that on the ball. Every single reading. That's another thing I learned. Don't ever jump to conclusions unless you go to the source and get the full story. And that's one thing that I struggled all my life. Thought I knew everything, you know what I mean? Based on gut reactions and this and that. And like 99% of the time I was wrong. Or these astrological charts that it's an art that has been used even, I think, in Babylonia and Atlantis. I think it's the ancient form of psychiatry, of guidance, And I think that's why when organized religion came, they quashed it. They quashed it because it worked. When the powers of BC that something is working, they try to quash it. I think it's a roadmap. It's literally like a cheat sheet. As the astrological charts are a kind of video game where you have cheat codes.
It's your manual. If you could be born with a manual, this is it. And it's just got to be decoded. And up until the mid 1800s, if you wanted to take any sciences, including medical, you had to take astrology. And then you're right. In the mid 1800s, the Catholic religion, squashed it and made it woo-woo and completely changed it. Because as you know, I do sidereal astrology and just made it all about sun signs and whatnot. So let's give them a little taste of a reading now. Do you have something you want me to look up? I know we're doing a real reading after this.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like everything got procrastinated. All the karmic lessons got procrastinated within 1 month. It was painful. Like there's still remnants of it, but after the retrograde on the 17th, which was 2 days ago, it's a lot. Things are like 85, 90% better and clearer now. There's that 10, 15% still lingering around, but have all these files and recycling bin, they're slowly getting deleted.
Well, taking a look at your Saturn, which you're at the tail end of that one.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah.
So you've been going through that for about a year and you're at the tail end of it in February. So you're going to see that you're going to make a sudden decision about wanting freedom. And it is heavy on the relationship, but it's also around your financial goals, your long-term financial goals. But then you're going through another manifesting stage that starts in January of 2025. So this has a lot to do with your career. It's about looking at investing and investments and wanting to position yourself to be in a better place for investing. That might be real estate or home or just cash and putting money away. But it's also taking a closer look at your psychology and your gifts, and your psychic gifts it's already in the eighth house. So it's getting really strong. But throughout
Oh, yeah.
next year, your intuition you won't even need me anymore, Chris. Your intuition is
Oh,
going to
don't
be
say
so
that. Don't
strong.
say that. You have to find good people who will support you because, like I said, in the game of life, you could be a lone wolf, but you need a support system because when you try to do everything by yourself, you taking one stick, you'll break it, but you put 10 sticks together, it's strong, right? Right about the psychic abilities. Yes, and it is overwhelming, and I'm still working on how to, because I see things, I think of certain people, I think of certain objects, and then throughout that day or the next day, I bump into them or I see, but it is a little overwhelming at first, and I'm still in that rookie stage. Feels like I'm like a rookie. I just went on the field right now, so I don't know how to play with it yet, how to control it yet.
There's different ways that you can practice it, and that is literally having a diary of your deja vu, so to speak, or your psychic ability. So every time something happens, you think of something and then it happens, write a diary, because the written word is very powerful. So it actually says to your higher self or your brain or your mind that this is a good thing that's happening. I want it to keep coming. I want it to keep flowing. I'm working with it when you write it down physically. And there even is in February, I know you may not want to hear this, but it's not a bad thing. There will be an old, possibly relationship, that person that tries to contact you. And I know we talked about that last year and it happened, and this may happen again, but you're not going to be affected by it at all. I would just warn you, don't reach out back. Like
No,
you might be tempted to because you'll want to
it's
fix
a
a
test from the
problem,
universe to see
kind
if
of
you're going
thing.
to go back to
Yeah.
the
And
old
then
ways.
after that, you're clear to go into a relationship. I wouldn't even attempt a relationship until after February of 2025, which isn't that long and not that far away.
No, that's exactly what's been happening in the last the last 4 weeks. I've been, as soon as my magic wand phase finished, literally the day or two after, I had like three different like hammers hit on me, and it's almost kind of like that's like a test from the universe saying, "Okay, let's see what you learned." It's almost like a test, like an examination. See how you're gonna
Yeah.
handle it. This has been it's been painful. It's almost just like, because it comes in waves. Spiritual awakenings come in waves. It's kind of like push pull. So like I said, there's like that negative devil in your head saying, "Nah, you're it's useless, it's pointless. It's gonna go, it's bad is gonna happen." And no, not negative is gonna happen negative. But then you kind of counteract it and say, no, 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 no. F off. You know what I mean? You've been torturing me for years. Now it's my turn. I know it
Would you
sounds
change
sounds a
it
little
now that you
crazy.
look back and we kind of walked you through it? Would you like it? Because a lot of people, when they say to me, when I say something's going to happen or this is a stage you're going to go through, they're like, how do I make it stop? You don't want it to stop, because when it's over, you gain so much. So what did you
Yeah.
gain
What
now
did I
that it's
gain? I gained a knowledge and a mentality that I wish I had 15 years ago. I wish this had
that's huge.
if I had this mentality 15 years ago and this way of thinking, things would be totally different in my life right now. I did share this with my mother because she's also going through her spiritual awakening, obviously
And
later in life.
I've worked with your mom too.
Yes, yes, yes. So we're kind of both. She started before me.
Mhm.
Um, like I'm catching up, right? So when her and I talk, it's like we're talking about what I talk about with you, right? And the thing is, she she knows I'm not crazy because she tells me. But even sometimes when I start going back to my old negative habits, she stops me and says, "Hey, stop, stop. That's negative. That's negative. Stop, stop." And at first, I was getting frustrated. Stop. I want to let out my frustration and anger. She's like, "Don't do that because you're attracting your negativity back. Don't do that. Do it in different ways. Go work out. Go grab a coffee." Even though I cut my coffee content by like 1 to 2 a
That was
day.
one of my things I said too, because your
That's
adrenals in your chart, your
yeah.
adrenals are very sensitive.
Yes, yes. And I what else did I learn? I went down the naturopathic ways. I started really researching. I could kind of started being like RFK Jr., started researching in foods. I started going back to basics. I threw all my any processed foods out, sugars, iodine, salts, everything. I went into naturopathic. I started researching vitamins, supplements. I asked you, what's your,
Well, when
you
you were really
recommend
stressed out to the max a month ago, when you're at the tail
that.
end, I recommended two different supplements, and one of them you took, and you were like game changer.
It's it takes a while for them to kick in, but once they
Yeah.
kick in, like with vitamins and everything, and it's a world of a difference. I lost a lot of weight. I taught cut alcohol by 99.9%. You know what I mean? I only drink like a beer or two socially, and I'm pretty much drunk after 4 or 5 beers, and I have a hangover. So back in the day, I
Yeah.
had a gut, I was unhealthy, but now it's like I'm in my early 40s. Like my skin tone is different. I work out 10 minutes a day on my rowing machine, my living room every day. I've simplified my life where I think twice before I used to have a bad spending habit because that's how I filled the void by buying things. I've totally turned into my father. I became frugal. And
Yeah.
now I understand. And this is how I started understanding why my parents a lot better, way better. And our relationship with both my parents have improved significantly, significantly. And it's better late than ever. I love
Actually,
both are just two
you're
different
pretty
people.
young. You've done it very, very young, to be honest with you. I know people in their 50s and still, I hate my mom, I hate my dad, and I don't like this and I don't like that. And most of the people that I work with do end up either with a better relationship with their parents or at least understanding why they chose parents and why they
Yes.
can't continue to be in a relationship with them.
You also, during your awakening, you also start respecting and you really start respecting your parents a lot more. You want to spend more time with them. And now that they're getting older, I would love to. I try to spend as much physical, I try to go back home as much as I can to visit them because once they pass, I'm gonna regret it that I didn't spend enough time, that I didn't ask these questions. Because I hear these stories because I have friends who lost their parents, even lost their spouses in their 30s and 40s, and there's always that same regret, especially with parents. Oh, I wish that I even had that one more conversation.
Well, you're very fortunate that
Yes, yes.
you do have parents that are awake and aware and they're on the same page and they were willing to wait for you to catch up. They didn't cut you out.
Especially my mother.
You didn't
Yeah.
cut them
Yeah.
out, right? And
No.
that happens. Parents will cut children out because they can't, or children will cut parents out, or parents try to force their child to be a certain way by arguing with them all the time and yelling at them all the time. And that's not healthy.
Well, it's
So,
a fill a void, right? It's a fill a
yeah,
void because there's something they didn't. It's almost kind of like they're trying to relive their dreams to their children by forcing them to be somebody they don't want to be. Wanted to be a certain somebody in their life and they never achieved it, so they're trying to relive that through their children, right? And the parents really force them into dancing, into the arts because
yeah.
that's something mom always wanted to do, but their mom didn't let them do it, right? So now they're forced.
Or even now with politics or what's been happening in the last 4 years with COVID, like it's divided a lot of people and a lot of families. In the States, it's worse, like with the politics. Well, Canada's starting to catch up. I think people don't want to talk about politics because but I still think we're a bit more forgiving, or we just don't talk about it as much. In the States, it's insane. Like,
Well,
and it's been
it's
like
like
that a
that
long
all around
time.
the world. It's like that all around.
Is
Canada is
it?
probably the only country like that's different. Canada is kind of like the black sheep of the world where we do everything. We always pride ourselves on being different. That anti-American sentiment. That's kind of a mistake because in Ontario, we always and then the Polish culture. We talk about how much money we make. We talk about religion. Oh, and we talk a lot about politics. It's been in our blood,
Yeah.
and it's like that in Poland now. They're like the Americans. They're divided between left and right. You're either on team left or team right. It's like that in America. Canada always had these unwritten rules where you don't talk
It's
about
not polite.
religion, you
Yeah.
don't talk about politics, and you don't talk
Yeah.
about how much money you make. And there's also
Yeah.
three rules: please, thank you, and I'm sorry. Right. And this is why we're in the mess right now because it's so easy for somebody like Justin to get in and walk all over and bulldoze. So do whatever he wants, like a spoiled king. And now people are starting to wake up. People are starting to wake up. And I'm glad that it's happening, but it's all done for a reason. It's all done for a reason. It's all part of the universe's plan, right? We're kind of like the last ones to start waking up. And it's better late than ever. After what I'm seeing, I think that right now we're going through our transformation phase. And all this negativity you see online, well, they're going to do this, they want to do that. No, that's not going to happen because, first of all, it's unrealistic what the plans are by the powers that be. And number two, it's almost like the universe did that on purpose to kind of like say, see, this is where it could lead to if you get people don't wake up right now. If you guys don't wake up. So it's just
There's
like,
definitely a lot of drama. There's a lot of drama,
yes,
and there is fake news, and there is fake news
yes.
that's real news.
The media and politicians do things. It's no different than they're just tapping into human nature and human reactions, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like they just know they know, once somebody taps into you and knows how to, it's almost like conditioning a dog to do a
yeah.
certain thing, like sit.
Train. We're being
Or
trained.
we're being trained, right?
Yeah.
It's called conditioning.
The final thing that you would say that, was your experience with an astrology reading and working with me.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot. It doesn't hurt. And you'd be surprised how just keep going. Just keep going. You know what I mean? Once you even have that one reading and it's so accurate, just keep going and
Yeah.
follow the advice. You know what I mean? Write it down.
Well, there
Uh,
is a lot of
don't stop.
psychology behind it. Like you said,
Yeah.
astrology used to be the old psychology. So there is a lot of psychology behind it. It's not just all about predictions, and it's about navigating towards those predictions because you have free will. You can do nothing. You could have not, looked at this apartment. You could have not changed your car situation. You could have not asked for the raise, right? You got free will. I can predict it, but I can't force your hand to do anything. But I do get adamant if you don't.
Like I said, it's almost like a road map. It's like driving on
Yeah.
a road and you're trying to miss that exit because you don't want to go down the road, but that road that you're on is ending, but there's like 10 different roads that you still have to take, and you're still going to end up in that road anyway. So
Yeah.
you might as well just deal with it the first shot and move on, right? Because if you're
Yeah.
going to come, you're just
That's
piling on deficit.
that's a good analogy. I always say to people, it's like boot camp, and it's as if a doctor said, you're eating too much sugar, you don't know you're going to be diabetic, or you're already diabetic. What are you going to do? You can continue eating that way, and you're going to feel worse and awful and terrible and get more bad prognosis. Or you can go to the gym and you can quit eating sugar. Either one is hard. Either one
Yeah,
is difficult, but the other way has better results at the
yeah,
end.
yeah,
Right. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
always say,
It's
like, you're
like
going to be
don't
in
come,
boot
don't.
camp for a year. Let's get through this.
I'm a millennial. I'm a senior millennial. I grew up with Mario Brothers, and that's why I use that analogy of a video game because
Hey, it's great.
the idea of
Works.
video games came from somewhere, and it's all hidden in the movies. Like when you start watching movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and listen to the music from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you're like, oh my god, they're literally telling you everything right there in hidden message, right? And
Yeah.
people,
A lot of hidden messages.
thanks to TikTok and Elon Musk's X, people are talking about it, and I'm really happy that we're living in these times where people are talking about things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
It's much more transparent times, whether
we've
you
been
like it
shunned
or
out for
not.
centuries.
Well, Chris, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking
No
to me
problem.
and talking to my audience and letting them know what's going on. Everyone, thank you for hanging in and listening right to the end. You got a lot of good advice, I know, and you're going to relate to a lot of this. And that's what's important as well. I'm sure a lot of you are nodding your heads going, oh, yeah, that's me. That's me. That's me. I've been there. So thank you again, Chris. Thank you, everyone. Namaste.
Must stay. Thank you.